Good morning, everyone. We will begin shortly.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's on. On.
Am I audible, Rajeshri ma'am?
Yes, Amar, you're audible.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning, everyone. On the occasion of International United Nations International Sign Languages Day, we are delighted to have you join us for this webinar. In India, there are over 63 million people with auditory impairment. The topic for today is Advancing Indian Sign Language Interpretation, Technology, and Inclusive Education, which aligns with this year's theme No Human Rights Without Sign Language Rights. We have with us leading academics and experts to discuss the importance of sign language, the role of technology, and the benefits of a bilingual education that can make that can truly make learning inclusive for the deaf and hard of hearing students. Sign languages are a vital component of of global linguistic and cultural diversity. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about this crucial topic. We have with us Abid Tito Binu and Meera Sivam, who will be our interpreters for today. Let's begin with a prayer. Can we have the prayer video?
Sure.
ध्यायामो धवलावगुण्ठनवतीं तेजोमयीं नैष्टिकीं स्निग्धात्माकविलोकिनीं भगवतीं मन्दस्मितश्रीमुखीं वात्सल्यामृतवर्षिणीं सुमधुरं सङ्कीर्तनालापिनीं श्यामाङ्गी मधुसिद्धसूक्तिम् अमृतानन्दात्मिकामेश्वरीम्
Thank you. Now I invite Amal to take us through the agenda for today.
Thank you, Virajashri ma'am. Good morning, all. We begin the webinar with a panel discussion with our eminent speakers. It will be followed by a keynote address on the topic ISL Capacity Building in Education by Dr. Ulrich Sishan. I would first like to introduce Dr. Prema Nedingadi. Dr. Prema Nedingadi is the Associate Dean of the School of Computing, Amritapuri, Amrita Vishwavidyapitham. Dr. Prema Nedingadi is a founding director at Amrita Create, Amrita Center for Research in Analytics and Technologies for Education. The award-winning Educational Technology for Societal Benefit initiative of Amrita. She served as Indian coordinator of the C20 Working Group on Education and Digital Transformation during the G20 India presidency. Now, I will introduce our esteemed panelists. Ms. Anu will share her experience. Anu Menon is our very own project staff. She holds a diploma in computer engineering with a Bachelor of Fine Arts. She is skilled artist and an experienced Indian Sign Language interpreter. She has contributed to multiple projects as ISL signer. Dr. Vaishali Kolhe will speak on disability inclusion and policy in higher education. Dr. Vaishali Kole is the Associate Dean at TIS Mumbai and Center for Disability Studies and Action, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, has convened a national forum on disability, accessibility, and rights at TIS. positioning higher education policy with a broader rights-based agenda. Her scholarship includes work on accessibility policy in higher education and editorial leadership in disability studies. Dr. Varsha Gathu will address inclusion of children who are deaf and hard of hearing. Dr. Varsha Gathu is the former head of the Department of Education at Aliyavar Jung National Institute of Speech and Hearing Disability and now works as an inclusive education consultant. Her research spans teacher self-efficacy for inclusion and instructional practices for learners with hearing loss. Dr. Raji Gopal will speak about ISL higher education and early intervention. Dr. Raji Gopal is a faculty at National Institute of Speech and Hearing. NISH. She has experience in higher education and early education. Her projects include English learning materials for deaf learners and multilingual behaviors among signers. Ms. Pallavi Kulshrestha will talk about children, ISL, and inclusion. Pallavi Kulshrestha currently works as Associate Director, National Partnerships, Dream A Dream. She has worked in deaf education, digital inclusion, sign language, and systemic policy change, collaborating with central agencies to create holistic and inclusive learning environments. Ms. Dow Paisley will talk about sign interpretation. Dow Paisley Shankari is a good friend and an independent American Sign Language interpreter educated at Gallaudet. Ms. Sharayu Kadam will speak about English for Deaf. Sharayu Kadam is Associate Coordinator of the English Development Program at Teach and contributed to the National Workshop on Teaching English to Deaf Students. And now, please join me in inviting Dr. Nedingadi to facilitate the panel discussion.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session. We are looking at a few broad themes. The first is we will hear from our own deaf project staff about the lived experiences and the daily communications. We are looking at language learning resources, early interventions, inclusive classrooms, and also pathways for higher education, campus communications. And we hope that through this panel discussion, we are able to collaborate in the future on how to build better assistive technologies with Indian Sign Language or otherwise for our deaf children. So we'll start with Miss Anu. Anu, are you? Can you spotlight me? So Anu is a very accomplished artist, and she was born deaf with a twin sister. She studied in a regular school, achieved a lot, and we'd like to hear from Anu about her experience working on building ISL learning app and how this could be useful for deaf children and their families.
Yes, like for the development of ISL app, I am extremely happy because the students can sign and the family members can understand what they are seeing, and for the support, they can learn sign language as well. So the deaf children and they have whatever questions or queries to ask to the family members, they can learn from the family members. It will be easy for the communication.
Anu, can you also share your experience in school and then when you went to when you went on to do your diploma, but that was in with Indian Sign Language.
Okay, I have completed my diploma.
Coimbatore in the college.
Kozhikode. Yeah, Kozhikode. I have completed my computer engineering. Again, DFSP. I have completed my 3 years course there.
Worked in the government for 1 year.
Okay, I have worked in the government sector for 1 year, and now I am working in Amrita as an ISL interpreter. I have completed my 4 years here and hoping to be continuing.
All right.
So Anu, um, on adolescent students, how do we make sure that they are motivated so that they can grow when the support in schools may not may not be so good? And what should we do? What should we do to help them?
Yeah, first teachers must learn sign language, then they can teach the students. Then only they can develop and get success.
All right.
Thank you, Anu. We will
Thank you.
go to Dr. Vaishali.
Prema ma'am, I just wanted to share that I would be leaving soon.
Okay,
So if you want to like put
Hello.
me first, because then otherwise I'll be in the cab. If my questions can be first, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, but I don't want to do it in the cab. There might be other noise.
sure, sure. Pallavi, we can start with you.
Thank you so much.
All right, Pallavi, we have known each other since C20, and I've always valued your inputs for the deaf. Um, please tell us, based on your experience, what should be top priority for early intervention early childhood education for deaf children?
Um, Thanks, ma'am. And I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. And Anu was spot on. She was completely right when she shared that um, everything starts at home, right? So the ISL lab that you were talking about, when we think about early intervention, let's not think about deaf children as children who are very different from hearing children. At first, they're children, right? And as children, the first language access, which is so natural, which comes so effortlessly for the hearing babies. The moment you are born, you're into this world and everybody's talking around you. You're hearing everything, right? But for a deaf child, that experience is so starkly different. There is no language. Imagine being born and your parents are talking, you're not able to hear them. You have your relatives and everything. The information is just flowing around, but you feel so isolated, right? The critical age for language development remains the same, whether you're a deaf baby or a hearing baby. Your brain is ready for language. Your brain really wants to absorb the language, but there is no language which is accessible. Unfortunately, the medical model of disability really is about like fixing the disability, and most of the medical professionals also prioritize fixing the hearing rather than thinking about, oh, this child needs language, right? So while you have speech therapy or you go for hearing aid or any other assistive devices, what is really needed is that they get language access from day one because it's part of human right? If the deaf children who are born to deaf parents, both mother and father are deaf, we see that like how natural their development progress, the cognitive development, the social emotional development, and even when they go to school, they are much more confident, right? So this assumption that spoken language acquisition alone would make you successful needs to be challenged. And there are enough studies that point out that the brain responds equally, whether it's sign language or spoken language. Your brain lights up, your cognition lights up. It's all related. So, for early intervention, I think without a doubt, what we need to prioritize is access to language. The NEP, National Education Policy, really says like your mother tongue. The whole concept of mother tongue is something which is naturally accessible, something that you don't have to try. Speech therapy is great. You can learn speech. Not all deaf children would develop speech. Those are hard facts, and we should accept it. Um, but at the same time, all children can learn sign language. In fact, in US, hearing babies of hearing parents are learning sign language because by 6 months they start signing. So communication starts even earlier. So it's beneficial for all babies. Uh, but if we are not giving that language in the early age, what happens is language deprivation syndrome. What happens is this irreversible damage that no matter how hard you try, if the critical period is over, it becomes really difficult for any child for to get that kind of language. In hearing population, because most of us are hearing, we don't experience it. Maybe like in the last 5,000 years, there might be like 10 cases. We call them feral children, children who are abandoned by parents in the forest. Uh, but in deaf children, I think it's like it's everywhere. It's like a pandemic. Most of the deaf children are facing language deprivation, and I feel it's a critical issue that through the platform that we are having this discussion, I think we can really highlight this. That how do we ensure that there is equal language access for both hearing babies and deaf babies? That's a good start that we should ensure. Thank you.
So how would we expose ISL to the parents and other caregivers, family members? As you said, it's probably easy to teach the deaf child, but what about the
Yes,
rest of the community?
yes. It would happen simultaneously, right? So the model that we had in Haryana, where I was working for around 7 years, it was around parents used to come with the deaf babies to the center. There was a deaf teacher who was teaching sign language to both the parents and the deaf babies. So they were learning together. There are other models which are there in US and other states in which like they also, the deaf teacher going to their home and teaching them sign language. There are also provisions in Europe in many countries where parents get leave. The concept of like if your child is deaf, you also get leave from the government specifically to learn sign language. So there are many ways to do it. Because ultimately, what's our real objective? That the deaf child should get language right from the beginning. And you're right. I mean, unless parents learn it, just the deaf child learning sign language is not enough. I have so many deaf friends, and they share with me that how difficult it is when they go back home, especially in COVID when there was nobody to talk to. So parents are the key, and this the stigma around it, deafness, right? All that also fades away once you're having direct communication with the parents. When you don't need like a third person to communicate with your own parents. Otherwise, what happens is that I have interpreted some of the family things, and then these deaf people have like 20 years worth of things unshared, and using an interpreter, then you just keep on sharing that. That's not fair. The bond that we have with our parents and the love that we have, um, it's not just about food, it's not just about care. It's really about communication. And I think that's what we're celebrating today on this International Day of Sign Languages, that how do we ensure equal communication for all? Thanks.
I was going to ask everybody in the end about how assistive tech can help in this, but since you're leaving after this, I'll ask you that if you can,
Sure.
one sentence say that.
I feel assistive technology, especially in a country like India, um, becomes like a resource because we don't have enough interpreters. We probably have less than 300 interpreters for, say, like if we even estimate it as per the last census, like a 6 million or 6 million deaf people, and that's never gonna make it. We have more and more deaf people who are very good with technology. So technology is not something that they are um, uh, that they're not familiar with. I know a lot of deaf people who are using live captions, right? So and there's so much work which is happening with the AI, which is happening with the artificial sign language, creations in which you
Avatar.
avatars, yes, avatars, and it's getting good, right? I mean, I have my own doubts that how sign language being so human in nature, how would an avatar really do justice? But maybe like we need that because ultimately like deaf people have to be independent, right? Like at hospitals, at courts, at railway stations, at airports, there's so many places we don't have interpreters. So there are two options: either all of us start learning sign language so that we have like a really truly inclusive environment, or we have better assistive technology which allows for equal access for all.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that we are working on an avatar, and the 2D avatar at least is quite human-like. So hopefully in a few couple of months we'll be able to share a first version.
I'm very excited to see that.
Okay. Thank you, Pallavi.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Vaishali? Dr. Vaishali is here? Yes.
Very good morning to all of you, and thank you, madam, for inviting me to this very important day, International Day on Sign Language today. And it's an honor to be here on this platform.
Dr. Vaishali, since you work so much with policies, um, that's what we would like to hear from you. What would be policy levers? What are standards for accessible ICT? Should we be having mandating interpreters or VRI, or what should our budgets be, etc., so that we can have both inclusive classrooms and better special education.
Right. Thank you. And as you know, the theme of the International Day for the Sign Language is no human rights without the sign language rights. So I come here from the policy point of view and also from the human rights point of view, that how the Constitution, Article 14 talks about the right to equality, and Article 21 right to life. It talks about how we have to give equal opportunities to all the deaf population. And I believe the problem doesn't lies with the deaf population. The problem lies with the hearing world, which believes that it's okay to speak, and they assume that the deaf people will understand the sign language, understand the verbal and lip movements and all kind of verbal communication. And this is a major I would say, gap between the hearing world thinking that it's okay. But now, in the world of human rights and United Nations Convention, it has become mandatory under the Article 40 of the Rights for Persons with Disability Act on accessibility, allowing them to equal access to the deaf population regarding the sign language. And believe me, this technology can really a boon to all the deaf population. And I'm glad that there is a sign language courses run by the National Institute for Speech and Hearing Disability, Alia Varjang, since past many years. And if you look at the eligibility criteria is 12 plus. So when I looked at the sign language curriculum of the National Institute, I found that it's so basic. And look at our deaf population, they are becoming doctors, engineers, and uh, you know, how this kind of a language interpretation will help them, because they are going in a very advanced stage of language, learning in these kind of curriculums, which are, uh, based on engineering or very highly specialized, also computer science, where they have to study, and how a sign language interpreter of 12th plus qualification can really interpret these kind of very heavy language. So this is a gap which I have realized, that the curriculum has to be advanced, where the sign language interpreters can be graduate plus, and they should learn about all the curriculum part of engineering and other different other courses, so that they are able to interpret that. That's one. In terms of the curriculum of the sign language in India is very, very basic today. It has to be advanced further based on various disciplines, so that if a university appoint a sign language interpreter, they should be able to do the justice to those courses which are technical in nature, which are driven by technology, and they should be able to do their job as interpreters. On the other hand, what I believe that if you you talked about the policy and the policy structure in the context of NEP 2020. So the if you look at the universal accessibility guidelines of higher education, which is drafted by the committee headed by Professor Gaurav Raheja, if you look at this kind of guidelines, it clearly lay down the very scientific structure and a policy, in terms of how people with deafness can be provided equal opportunities, and these guidelines can be converted into a policy framework where accessibility and inclusion are the core principles of this policy. And if you look at the policy framework, we no policy can be implemented unless there is a budget to that particular policy. And so we worked with 15 universities in Maharashtra to develop a disability policy in higher education and submitted it to the cabinet and the chief secretary and other people, where we have kept the sign language interpreter and budget for them, and also uh, various kinds of awareness programs on sign language, like short-term courses can be introduced in the universities on introduction to sign language. So every university at least have an awareness that there is a population with deafness who require this kind of interpretation as their basic necessity to learn. And under Article 14, I think one can always, and Section 40 of the RPWD Act, one can always kind of, institutionalize it in every university. So if you look at the policy for today, if you look at the policy, it's hardly there. And we just appoint one sign language interpreter in a college or a university, and that person has to do the entire work of coordination with teachers, with students with deafness, with library, with other kind of systems in the university. So I would say a comprehensive policy would be based on the sign language interpreter as well as the technology part. I think the technology plays a very, very significant role in terms of providing them a real time interpretation, which is not filtered by your own interpretation, but it is real time, from speech to text or any other form, or speech to sign language, where the person is able to understand uh, all kind of the curriculum and also knowledge whichever is being taught in the classroom. So I would say policy with a budget of sign language and technology will be very, very essential. Second thing, in every classroom or every university, if there is an awareness program on sign language, like what is happening today in your university, will be very useful. Third thing is there can be a short-term courses in alignment with the National Institute for Sign Language, uh, can be initiated as a model practice, and this can be useful to provide that platform to every university to work in the field of sign language and language in order to make it accessible to the deaf population, so that every deaf can choose whichever university they want, and they can learn with equal access to language and the curriculum, whatever is being taught to them. So this is overall a policy is the must, but with technology and with different kind of applications and apps, which will be not only based on the sign language interpretation, but it will be based on the real time conversion from teacher to student. There is an app which is called as Text It Loud, which was developed by KJ Somaiya College of Engineering. You can Google it; it's available free of cost, where there is a system it can be implemented in a classroom setting, where whatever the teacher is speaking, it will come on the app of mobile app of that student in the real time conversion, interpretation and conversion from speech to text, so that the student can learn effectively. So overall, what I would say, policy is must, with a budget and with equal access to opportunities for the deaf population to learn every course, every curriculum, whatever they would like to learn.
Thank you, Doctor. Vaishali, one small question, maybe in a couple of minutes you can answer, is these online, we see a lot of online courses for sign language, etc. So, what would be, how do we make sure that these are valid, good enough, like in terms of regulations?
Right. I think these online courses is quite welcoming. That at least something is there, because one cannot go to the National Institute and learn that particular course. But at an introductory level, it is a good idea to start an online course. But there should be accessibility features. There should be some technological kind of access should be provided, so that a deaf person can also learn these courses. And also the online courses will be an opportunity to connect with the global world also, and invite speakers from outside, and the experts from across the globe. So it will give a platform to all the people working in the field of sign language to connect. And also, in absence of these kind of courses availability, I think these courses will be useful. But in terms of certification, in terms of skill building, I think one has to really brainstorm as to how this will be possible. But then ultimately, as an introductory level, it will be useful, I would say.
Thank you, Dr. Vaishali. Now we will move to Dr. Varsha. Dr. Varsha, you have so much experience in
I
inclusive.
said happy Navratri to all.
Happy Navratri.
Navratri.
That's very, very nice. We are doing it at such a time.
Yes.
And we'd love to hear from you about, all your long experience in both special education and inclusive settings, and also understand, what really works for general education teachers to be specializing in deaf inclusion.
Thank you. My internet is a bit unstable, so if it is unstable, I'll switch off my video, but the audio is on. First of all, thank you very much for having me on this panel. The people before me have already set the stage for critical years and for the teachers to learn. So, Vaishali, the previous speaker before me, she did mention about capacity building of teachers and others, through the different courses. One thing I just wanted to add on, because she has raised a very valid point about, the courses in ISL, which teachers or other parents would have. They're very, very at the primitive and the basic level, is what she has really raised concern about it. I would first clarify about it that RCI has already instituted two postgraduate courses also, and they are starting from this year from in the ISLRTC, that is the National Institute for Research in Sign Language and Training, and Ali Awarja. So in both these institutions, the PG diploma in the same one, the diploma in interpreting Indian Sign Language and the diploma in teaching Indian Sign Language, both the diplomas have been raised to the PG level. And the best part of this is that it is made specific to the interpreter's course, is made specific to different situations, as she said. So one can choose the specialization of education, one can choose the specialization of an administrative, this thing, or any other emergency situation. So there are a lot of options. So that's a very good and applaudable move by the Rehabilitation Council of India. That was one aspect. And coming to your specific question, Dr. Prema, that how do we build up teachers' efficacy, or, you know, for the inclusive practices. So, India is following the No Child Left Behind or No One Left Behind. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. So, there are, ultimately, we want the teachers in the inclusive school to really see that each child in the class, whether it is a child with disability or without disability, we know children are diverse. Even within the group of children with hearing impairment, as we call them, and now call them as deaf and hard of hearing, depending upon the use of oral approach, or the manual, or the bilingual approach, or bimodal approach. Each and every child has got the right to learn in the class. Now this invite the teachers there and see a change in their performance, from a stage where, okay, your teacher or your special educator will come and teach you, versus I am there, like hum hai na. So I am there for each and every child in the class, and for which a teacher has to develop that self efficacy. Just giving a short capsule of ISL training to the teachers won't help, meaning it will help to some extent for sensitization or orientation. But for me to become confident enough to use, bilingual approach, or, have a diverse approach, I need to practice it and also gain enough self-efficacy into it. How do I develop it? Not just by a 3 months training, 6 months training, or online training, but I need to practice it. And that is what is the first source of self-efficacy, which in the Bandura's theory we get it, and that's the mastery performance, that you yourself practice it out and achieve a level of mastery and confidence. The second principle to it, or a source of self-efficacy, as you see it on the screen, it is the vicarious experience. And that is like, you often see others who are, who are success, who have attained success, and, we have certain role models in front of us, like, those who have, Helen Keller is one of the role model for teachers. So the third one is the social persuasion, and that we have enough, as even Vaishali has said, about policies, or school principals supporting it. And gone are the days now, even in the special schools, where earlier the pendulum always shifts, with the cochlear implant and others, it is the auditory verbal therapy. But now we say whatever works best for the child. So the verbal persuasion, or say encouragement by the school principals or the head teachers, or the management in the school, or the parent support groups, etc. And the fourth one is the physiological or the emotional arousal within you. Like, it so happens that even today, when I had to download the background, I was anxious enough. I was calling Amal for it, that, where do I click, and what do I wanted to make sure that it's visible. So anxiety is natural for us, and even for teachers. I think I have been in teacher training all my life, and I know that when a teacher trainee faces the students also in the class, it is like going on a stage for a drama and performing there. So I know that teachers have got those butterflies in their stomach when it comes to practice teaching or demonstrating, and they want that every child should learn. So it's not easy as a teacher's job. It is uh, gone are the days when you are just going and putting down question answers on a blackboard. But here, with the learning outcomes of Nipun or other things, that it is ultimately the teacher's accountability and her this thing which is going to be measured, whether the children in her class are understanding it or not. So two things related to ISL. One is the exposure, the teachers practicing it, and the most important thing is one has, as a policy maker or at the university level, two things are distinct. One is that you understand the language. So the teacher has to understand what the child wants to ask, what the child wants to say. And the second thing is the knowledge transfer to the child. So whether it is of chemistry, whether it is biology, or whether it is arts, whatever the teacher has to build the knowledge or help the child to construct his or her knowledge, the teacher has to be equipped enough herself or make use of the technology so that knowledge transfer to the child happens in the way he or she can understand. Is that um, sufficient to answer the question in an inclusive classroom? Dr. Prema?
Yes, definitely. I do have a follow-up question, but maybe I will hold it for when Dr. Ulrich also joins, because I
Okay.
want to understand about the B.Ed hearing impairment, that specialization and how we can improve that or do capacity building. But let's wait for Dr. Ulrich also to join.
Yeah, and we also talk about the universal designs of learning. So, if we don't get a chance later, I just wanted to say that UDL as a concept has been introduced in all our teacher training programs. And UDL is not just for children with and without disabilities, it is in any setup, be it inclusive or be it special also. Even in special school, Dr. Prema, you know that the children are heterogeneous, they are diverse. They have got different learning styles. They have got different cognitively processing styles. So, no two children are alike, even if they are children without hearing loss. So, the universal design of learning with the three principles of engagement or multiple means of representation or action and expression, that holds the key in the inclusive practices today.
Yes, very important point, extremely important. Now we are even hearing about just design in general should be
Yes,
mandated, just like AI design should be mandated for all graduates, is what
right,
people are talking about, because so that better systems can be built. Whatever is
correct.
built is more usable. Thank you. So
Thanks.
we will come back, and now we will move to Dr. Raji Gopal. Dr. Raji Gopal, you have experience with both higher education pathways. Um, I know you have the 4-year degree for computer science, where the very first year is an Indian Sign Language. We have our own Trishul school students who have come there and studied also from Amrita's speech and hearing improvement school, and heard very good things about it. So please share your based on your experience. What are the higher education pathways, whether it is ISL primarily, or we blend ISL with English, or we use interpreters? What are the different ways so that we can have better retention and also better graduation in higher?
Yeah, thank you for that question. A warm good morning to all of you. Thank you for having me. This is a very special day, International Day of Sign Languages, and the whole week is being celebrated as the International Week of the Deaf. So I'm very glad to be a part of this panel discussion. So before though Dr. Prema pointed out that we have programs, I just would like to elaborate. Just 1 minute, my phone is ringing. Can you? I'm sorry, that was my landline. Yeah, so though Dr. Prema mentioned our programs, so I just like to elaborate on our programs that we're offering because I feel that whenever I join such discussions, not much is being talked about the degree programs that we are offering at Niche. So we started in 2008, and in 2013 we changed the regular degree programs, which are 3 years, into a 4-year program. So these programs are unique because they are exclusively for deaf and hard of hearing students, and also because they are designed for deaf and hard of hearing students. So that means we are offering specialized curricula for deaf and hard of hearing students. And the another unique feature about these programs is that the content, the curriculum, is being delivered in ISL. So ISL is being used as a medium of instruction. So we do not use interpreters for delivering the curriculum. It has worked very well for us because most of our teachers, or at least all our teachers, are trained in ISL. So right now, rather RCI has pulled out those short-term ISL courses, which were initially known as A, B, and C, which is actually very useful for teachers who want to come into the special education area to teach in colleges, etc., to do a short-term course in ISL and then go on to teaching deaf students. But unfortunately, RCA has pulled out those programs and they're no longer offering them. So what we have developed is the niche innovation model, training for the inclusive educator, which is a short 3 months course where teachers are trained in special education, deaf education, and ISL as a subject. So that kind of helps our teachers who have expertise in various subjects like computer science, commerce, fine arts, etc., to actually make their content accessible by teaching them in ISL. So to answer your question, Prema ma'am, ISL blended curriculum does work very well, and it has worked very well for us. But of course, unfortunately, or the current scenario is that all our assessments are done in the written language, which is English. So, literacy skills as far as reading and writing are concerned in English language is still, it needs to reach at least the level as, or maybe even more, as that of a hearing graduate will be faring in a regular college. So that is that I mean, like when you mentioned ISL along with English is one way to look at it, one way to get the students to write and read English. So if you were to look at niche alone, I think I'm not very happy with that kind of outcome because our students are still lacking in that area. So, so why I should say is because perhaps the 12 years of schooling system that they've had, and which has not probably touched upon these areas, where maybe that much of focus is not given. ISL medium schools are not available. Uh, of course, Pallavi talked about Haryana school. I know for a fact that Indore Bilingual Academy is another bilingual schools. But in Kerala, currently the scenario is that we do not have ISL or rather bilingual schools in Kerala. And in the early intervention program at NISH, we have started a dual language program where we are offering ISL, as a medium of instruction, or rather teaching ISL to the students as well as the parents. But then the parents pose this question to us: what after early intervention or after preschooling? Which school do we go to? So we don't have a single school in Kerala that can be pointed out saying, okay, this would be an ideal school for you. Maybe to follow up on your education. So that's the scenario in Kerala, unfortunately. So yeah, so that's my take. I believe ISL should be a medium of instruction. Having interpreters will not do justice. I know many universities, many colleges are doing so, but there is probably a lot of problems and a lot of issues. You can't just add an interpreter and call it inclusive. If you have deaf students, I think the teachers should also use ISL for communication and for teaching purpose.
Yes, Dr. Raji, you bring up extremely important points, and that is something I think this team and overall for India we need to see how our children who know ISL, how they can move on within schools, how our schools can become more inclusive. And if you really have a short-term teacher training that makes the subject teacher, uh, proficient in ISL, that is really excellent. Because just as you said, we have tried to translate some of our subjects with interpreters, and if they don't know the basic concepts,
True.
it's just not there.
Yes, true.
So that's something I think we all have to learn. Uh, I would love to learn more about that in the future.
Sure.
So one other thing is, in terms of based on your experience, you know, all the other universities in India, what should we do? Are there we offer courses. If there is only one or two deaf children, it is not so easy to get interpreters, and even interpreters, as you said, may not be able to do justice. So, how do we make, of course, technology and avatars is one way to do it, but how do we really, how is it practical from a practical point of view? How do we have deaf inclusion in higher education and put online certifications, online degrees, which the UGC allows? Amrita also offers some new online courses through our AHEAD degree program. Would that be an alternative?
Yeah. So my take on that question is currently when our students enroll for our degree programs, which is computer science, commerce, and fine arts, not many are aware as to why they have selected these programs. Okay, so many of them choose computer science because they believe, or rather their parents believe, that computer science has more possibilities as far as employment is concerned. Commerce, because if they've not got selected for computer science, they switch to commerce. Fine arts, though it's a professional course where with specializations in sculpture, applied art, and painting, very few go in for the fine arts program because maybe students are not aware as to the possibilities for a professional program like fine arts. So what we do is we do a pre-admission kind of counseling in ISL, to set their priorities right. If at all that is not possible, at least when they come in, we kind of have peer-led question and answer sessions, so that our students who are currently studying computer science or commerce or fine arts are able to talk to the students who are going to enroll in these programs and tell them what they are going to face, the challenges that they will be facing when they take up a particular course, and they should not select course because their appa or amma asked them to do so. So that should not be the only motivation for joining a course. So to some extent, this pre-admission counseling in ISL kind of has helped us before onboarding the students into the programs. This kind of helped us to set their expectations correctly. So many of them don't have any expectations. So yeah, just study, continue, go on. This is the responses that we get from our students or from the students who are enrolling for our programs. So set their expectations right, what the program expectations should be, what the outcomes are, and see if they are the right fit for the program. So I don't know if other institutes are doing this. Mainstream institutes definitely are not going to do that for our deaf students because ISL would be a component. So that would be something that they would have to navigate and look into. So that's one thing. Then also, like someone said earlier also, get parents also, because usually when a student enrolls in a higher education program, the parents kind of say, okay, now my job is done, so he's put in a college program, so he should manage on his own, and he should. So no, that doesn't end there. The journey actually is a continuous one as far as a parent is concerned. So I think, earlier also it was mentioned, train the parents also. We have children coming from homes where very little communication happens, literally very little communication. So all the parents ask is, have you eaten food? Are you comfortable in the hostel? Are you studying? So these are the minimal questions that parents communicate to 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds. So we've also been at that age, and I remember the conversations that we used to have at home, the fights that we used to have at home. So this is not there because of that communication barrier. So get the parents, teach them ISL. So we also try to do that, at least through our induction programs, where we have parents join the programs, and try to tell them that this is the language that your child is comfortable in, and probably this is something that you should look at and learn ISL. And for that, we've also developed a MOOC, so they need not come to niche. They can do it. They can learn ISL sitting at home. So it's an open online course, free of cost, and it's a self-paced course that the parents can take if they are interested in communicating with their child. Another thing that could work is provide mentors. So we have a very robust mentoring program. Right now, the mentors are teachers itself. So the first year students have teacher mentors to guide them through their academic journey. We would like to transfer this mentoring program to peer mentors. So that's a good thing that could work, where the peers are mentoring each other and supporting them through the academic program. Peer network, that is also a good thing. So our WhatsApps are all very active and very lively, and doubts can be cleared. So we do form WhatsApp groups for parents as well as for students, and that's quite lively. So any doubts, any questions, they can post in ISL. They get their replies also in ISL. So that's one way of looking at it. Also, maybe include internships. So internship is one way of offering them actual live practice at a company, or at least at a job that you aspire to be in. So just saying, okay, we are doing the practicals in the lab will not be enough, will not suffice. I think internship is also should be included in degree programs. So these are some ways I think that we can retain the students, make the ecosystem accessible for the students, so that they are motivated to continue their academic journey. And also, one challenge is, after degree, what's the next step? So maybe also include post graduation programs. So that's our goal for the next academic year, have specialized post graduation programs also for the deaf and hard of hearing.
Thank you. Very important points we learned from you about your 4 year courses. You've taken a 3 year degree and converted it to 4 years just to make it more inclusive for them and also give them the ISL. You've trained your subject teachers in ISL, a lot of learning from you, and also the mentoring. Of course, we have teachers mentoring students everywhere, but the peer mentoring or maybe getting other experts or well wishers to mentor
Yes.
them would also be great.
Yes.
I did want to share that on your point about the parents picking the computer science normally, and if you don't get it, the commerce, and not the fine arts, for example. So just wanted to give an example of Anu. I don't know if she actually did a fine arts degree, And she also did that diploma in computers at the Polytechnic. So she studied both, and she has been successful in both. You know, she's working with us, and I don't know if Amal, if you can share one of her arts. She's a really good artist, and she's also selling some of her art. So it is possible for for getting, you know, for some kind of jobs, even when you when
We are convinced, ma'am. We are actually, because we've been running these programs, we are very much convinced about the employment possibilities and opportunities. But it's difficult convincing the parents. All of them are looking at government jobs, you know, safe, secure jobs is what they are looking at. So
Hmm.
BFA perhaps have very limited options as far as you know, a job in a company is concerned. So these are professional course. You need to have some skill in painting and art, and also an interest to get these skills developed. So you can't expect your child to join a BFA program and find that he doesn't have any interest whatsoever. And so that's a challenge, you know, getting him to draw, getting him interested in the subject. So that's I think parents are not or rather, for the sake of saying, you know, all the parents want is a degree. My child should have a degree. So he doesn't have a degree, he should have a degree. So this is what I'm looking at. I don't think they're thinking long time, long term. I don't know. So that needs to change. That things should change. You know, parents should be aware of what possibilities there are and what opportunities there are. We do try and you know, educate the parents that come in for our programs, but we have a long way to go. I don't think we have reached even you know, scrape the outer the thing, but yeah, we have a long way to go.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Raji. Let's
Thank
move
you.
to Miss Dove. We call her Shankari. Are you here? Has she joined? Yes. So Shankari is a friend from long time. She studied at Gallaudet and is an excellent uh, ASL interpreter, working everywhere, different domains, education, health, legal, etc. So I think we can learn a lot from you, Shankari, um, especially in India, because we have a shortage of certified ISL interpreters. And we do have interpreter services, but from your practice, we want to know what the bottlenecks an interpreter may have. You know, when you go in to interpret in a school, for example, what do you see that's lacking or what works well?
By bottleneck, do you mean the lack of interpreters that might be available for the deaf children? Is that what
Uh,
the question?
that is one of them. But then when you actually go in to interpret, do
Mhm.
you face challenges?
It really depends. There are some challenges that I think us educational interpreters face. I do find the the lack of interpreters can be an issue, especially in more rural areas in the United States. I've mostly live on coastal regions. There's higher education on those coastal regions, DC, now I'm in California. And there's also a lot larger deaf populations. When you kind of go towards the center of the United States, you have more rural areas, as you also have in India. And so you don't have as many qualified interpreters in that case. The kind of challenges I would say that we experience as interpreters really has to do with sometimes school support, um, but mainly where the child's at with their language, whether they're able to understand ESL, if they are what we call deaf plus, which means that they have a they're deaf, plus they have another disability. For example, right now I'm working full time with a student who is deaf with autism, and he has very low language skills. However, he has a cochlear implant. And so it's kind of an interesting, complex situation because while he is deaf, he has the implant, and so he speaks and he actually is at a very high level of reading for even a deaf person that doesn't have other disabilities. At seventh grade level, he sits at about reading level 5, which is where most deaf people graduate high school at. So the complexity of this particular situation that I'm in right now is that he's been placed in a moderate to severe classroom with other hearing students. So we have students that are where he is much more advanced than they are. And it's not the best placement for him, but he's right now in a hearing school and he actually belongs in a deaf school. So any challenges that we face may come around this sort of thing where I'm now not interpreting for him. I am a language model for him. And I'm trying to get as much ASL to him as possible in the short amount of time that I'll be working for him or working with him.
What about
As
your
far Mhm.
What about your experience and perspective on video relay interpreting? Something we've started doing in India. We offer it as a service also.
So video relay interpreting is a very sticky topic here in the United States. It's appropriate in some settings and it's not appropriate in other settings. So, for example, it might be appropriate in a business meeting. It could work in, and I've seen it work possibly in higher education. Um, and it really depends on the particular student in higher education, what their literacy skills are, and how they're able to, and also what class it is, what particular course. Mathematics, for example, tends to be a very visual course. And so a lot of the information is visual, it's written on the board. And so if they're only receiving information from the screen, from the interpreter, just the kind of fill-ins about what's written on the board, then it's something that could be successful. I often find that hospitals now are using VRI, what we call VRI. And what I find is that many deaf people are rejecting it, especially in situations where it's an inpatient situation. Hospitals are using it, one, because it's more affordable. Sign language interpreters in the United States, they make a pretty good living, and so it's expensive to hire an interpreter. The other thing is that it's convenient. So they don't have to schedule an interpreter or call an interpreter, so they can just bring the interpreter screen in the room. So it benefits in the case of an emergency, but it doesn't benefit in the case of a deaf person who has been admitted into the hospital. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is that deaf people can be highly medicated. And also when I'm in the hospital, and just to kind of give you an idea, here in the United States, we will have, if a deaf person is admitted into the hospital, they will be there. They can have round the clock interpreters. So I may be working a 12-hour shift with the nurses. Sometimes I've been at the hospital for as much as 36 hours, just gone home, taken a quick nap, and then come back because there weren't other interpreters available. And I sit out, the interpreter myself will sit outside the room, and anytime the doctors or nurses go in, that's when I go in to facilitate the communication. And so the reason that deaf people will often reject VRI and why I personally and professionally don't believe that it belongs in certain hospital settings and situations is because when I'm working with the doctors and nurses, especially with the nurses, the CNAs who are the assistants, it's literally a dance with the deaf person. If their diapers being changed, for example, I am crouched down on the ground because now it's a visual language, obviously. So their head is now down towards the ground, and my hands have to be there in order for them to receive the information. A screen is unable to do that. The other issues that I find within medical settings where it doesn't work is oftentimes as an interpreter, we'll be with that particular patient for many hours. We're getting all the briefing from the nurses. We're overhearing what the doctors are talking about. We have a lot of information about this particular patient. When here in the US, when a video relay screen comes up, that interpreter has no context about what's happening with that client. And I find that to be very dangerous, especially when dealing with certain medications and consent from patients. Last weekend, I interpreted an oral surgery where the patient was awake the whole entire time, and I sat over them and interpreted, and there was constant exchange between the dentist and the patient, and I actually had to be over them the whole entire time. And I don't see that how that would have happened with a particular VRI setting that's available right now. Does that answer your question, Dr. Prema?
Yes, Shankari. The do's and don'ts when we do this.
Yeah.
What would you advise, new and upcoming interpreters who are just learning their skills in classroom settings?
Classroom settings K through 12 or classroom settings in
K
college?
through
K
12.
through 12.
Or primary middle.
So in the United States, it's very common to hear in interpreting training programs that when students graduate in an interpreter training program, they should go into K through 12, that's entry level work. And I happen to very much disagree with that. And the reason is because if a student is in an actual mainstream program, which means they're usually by themselves, they don't have a deaf and hard of hearing teacher with them, or maybe they're with one or two other deaf kids, that interpreter then is the language model. And so that language acquisition from K through 12, whatever grade that is extremely important for them. Not only is the language acquisition very important, but their education and having right interpretation for that information is really important. So I come from the philosophy that interpreters really should be certified when working in a K through 12 classroom. So what I would recommend is letting that interpreter know, and actually not to go in the classroom at that time. And I know a lot of people disagree with that. They think it's an easy and kind of safe place to start. But again, I really think that it's hindering the education and the language acquisition of the deaf child at that point.
All right. I believe we do require certified interpreters or deaf teachers, but we leave it to other panelists. Thank you, Shankari.
Absolutely.
And last, we move to Ms. Sharayu.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting for this panel.
So you have experience working with English curriculum, ISL mediated English curriculum.
Yes.
To teach the deaf. And could you share what you do, the scope, the sequence, what do you do with the basic communication skills and move to more advanced?
Okay. So before I talk about my experience and how this is developed, I would just like to highlight a few challenges as deaf learners, what they have when they try to learn English. So first is they have a lack of exposure. Second thing, they are not taught language as such in schools. Their first language is ISL. Then then they might have regional languages. They have Marathi, Hindi. That is why they're able to lip read it properly. But there is lack of exposure for English. Second thing is there is a dependence on written English, because yes, ISL should be known to everyone, but looking at the current scenario, not everyone knows it. Yes, there are changes being made, there are efforts being taken for everyone to have at least a basic knowledge of ISL. But till we attain that, we everyone knows English is the medium where the deaf community can be placed also. So for placements, when they get into employment, English being the universal language, it is mandatory for the deafs to learn English. Now, in this written English, I will just say there is one difference when it comes to structure. So, if I have to ask a name, I say, "What is your name?" But if I have to sign it, I will just say, "Name what?" And it is communicated. Therefore, to understand the structure and to understand the context, a lot of basics have to be done. We at the Training and Educational Center for Hearing Impaired, that is TEACH, we deal with higher education. Now, when we are dealing with higher education, our students are affiliated with IGNU. Therefore, to get the basics done, we have a preparatory year, and we have a full-fledged English development program, which is divided into three levels. So when we talk about three levels, it is basic, elementary, and advanced. In the basic level, we talk about the basic interpersonal communication skills, the BICS. So when we talk about these interpersonal communication skills in the basic level, we just cover greetings, give them a hands-on experience on the vocabulary. Then in the elementary level, we extend it to paragraphs. So now, in the basic level, when they just learn basic sentences, we extend it to elementary level in paragraphs. And in the advanced level, we do more of AI integration because technology is required. It's not just that they have to know the written English, but technology. Now, when we talk about these levels, we understood what content is covered, but then how it is to be done. So, visual learning, yes, deaf learners, they understand more visually, but a human tendency, we zone out sometimes. I can't just play a movie for 2 hours straight and expect everyone to pay attention and catch each and everything in that. It is not just for deaf learners, but it is for every one of us, hearing, deaf, everyone. So for that, we we should understand that it is not just about visual learning. With visual learning, experiential learning and activity based learning is very important. Now, how this can be done? So, we at Teach, we do 80-20 ratio. 80% is activity and experience, whereas 20% is theory. In 20% theory, we just tell them the formulas. So, for example, if I'm teaching them a topic of present tense or continuous tense, I will give them a formula, and yes, you have to allot subject, verb, object in each of it. But when it is activity or experience based learning, to form a sentence, as I gave an example, what is your name? The components like is, your, is missed out when we talk in sign language. It is just name what. So to understand this structure, we play different games. So we use placards. We paste it on the students' clothes, and then we tell them, okay, rearrange this. So this is again visual learning. Retention becomes easier when they are themselves involved in that learning process. When we do AI integration, instead of just telling them, okay, you do a report on XYZ thing, or you do data analysis on this thing, instead, why can't we just take a tour around the vicinity, around the campus, wherein they actually experience what is happening around, and then maybe they can write a report. So again, they are themselves involved in the process, which is very important, which has given good results also. Then talking about how to do it across, like we understand there is a lack somewhere in schools because they focus more on the other languages and ISL, which is important. But for English, we also have a faculty development program. which involves ISL as well as other things, the methodology. So we have 9 different methodologies that are researched and piloted. And yes, they work for the deaf, because of which, to talk about the results, we have 75 students graduated, out of which we have placed 66 students. Now, these 66 students, they are placed as assistant managers in Kotak, in Sipla, and in good places at a good designation because of the written communication. So it becomes easier. They talk on mail. This faculty development program, I can say, it is in talks for certification from the UGC and ministry, and we have got it validated. Talking about coming back to this English development program again, this 80-20 methodology, I would like to elaborate on it. I've seen teachers wherein activities there, when there are probing questions, teachers ask students to do project and activity. But there is something known as a remedial or support, individualized education plan. So when the hard of hearing students learn English, their way of learning is entirely different from a stone deaf learner. So when English is to be taught, we need to focus on the curation and the tailoring of plans for everyone. So maybe a set of students, okay, these are the learners who are hard of hearing, these are the learners who are stone deaf, because their patterns are different. English, yes, it can be taught, it is easy, it is not a difficult task. We can make a student learn English easily with signing in English. This is one more aspect. So with individualized education plan, signing in English. How to sign in English and why to sign in English? Like, what is your name if it's, so I will say what, then I will use is, then I will use your name and a question mark also. This makes a habit. When the students are accustomed to this, they are acquainted with this structure, it becomes easier for them to write also. So signing in English is one thing which can be used with the 80% methodologies. So these are the few things which I stated when you teach English. Anything else which you all want to know?
I think it's very interesting to hear, especially the signing in English. There's long back there was some controversy, right? They shouldn't be signing in English,
Yes, yes,
signing
yes.
only in ISL. However, if they are already proficient in ISL, then to sign in English as a way to learn English sounds like a very interesting and novel concept, so that it gets
Yeah,
in their memory. Uh,
right. So it's like if I teach them English in a lecture, maybe a 2 hours lecture, but if they're not practicing it,
right.
the retention becomes a problem. But if they're practicing it continuously in the structured way, that has
Hmm.
given good results for us. Like our students placed in different sectors, the corporate sectors, they use it diligently while reading also. So we have something as book reading
Hmm.
where their comprehension develops. Then we have grooming skills also. So it is not just about language learning, but it is how you conduct and how you apply the knowledge that you have gained. So this all forms a part of our English development program. And yes, signing in English has given really good results.
Very good. And you have teacher training programs also? To
Yes, we have a faculty development program. It is based on English development program as well as faculty development program. Both are in systematic or systematically done with the terms of NEP. And the faculty development program, it is in the process of getting certified from the UGC and ministry.
Very good. Excellent. And how do you teach modules like morphology and syntax?
So for the morphology and syntax, we do it word wise. It becomes difficult when there's an example saying, "I want a football, I play football." The context is different. So we ensure while teaching them the morphology and syntax, we keep it aside. I will honestly say we'll keep it aside for some time, and we just focus on how they gauge it using ISL, because ISL is their base. When you map it with the ISL, and not with English language. Okay, in English language, this is the syntax that you have to use, this is the morphology that is connected to this. Instead, if we connect with ISL, it becomes much easier.
Yeah, I think we should probably incorporate some of these concepts into our language learning app. Also support sentences, English sentences with the
Correct.
ISL English or signed English. Very good.
That is why when I said about the experiential learning, book reading, if I teach them completely in the form of how we teach the hearing individuals, taking the technical terms that we have in English, it becomes really difficult, because for every word that we use, we don't have a sign for it. As in, we say the questions which I get from students is, if we use an elder brother, why don't we say an elder box?
Mhm.
And if I'm saying it is a huge box, why can't I say it, I have a huge brother? Therefore, going into those technical aspects will not relate. But if I teach them using signs and ISL, it becomes really easy for the students to understand.
Very, very interesting. I think if you have an online course, maybe some of our staff can also join and learn.
Yes, yes, we are underway that. So we have a digital content based on like we are in the process of creating the digital content for the English development program. And yes, we are open to for the faculty development program, because at the end, all the community should get benefited. So instead of us teaching, and we have 500 plus students, but instead of us teaching everyone, if teachers learn it or how to conduct it,
Okay.
it will be beneficial for the entire community.
Excuse me, Prema ma'am.
Yes.
Add Raji here.
Yes.
Uh, it's interesting what Sharayu had to say about signing in English. It's called signing exact English. C. It's called C, and it's I believe used in many schools in the US. We also tried that at Nish, but unfortunately, our students said no, no, it's not possible. We were not able to understand, and it's better that you teach us in ISL, and so we had an outright rejection when we
I
tried to introduce
think,
C.
Dr. Raji, the difference is
Hmm.
when you're teaching computer science or some other subject, you want to use standard ISL.
Hmm.
She's talking about teaching English.
Yes, we have
If you
English as
want to teach the
subjects.
structure of English
I'm,
using,
yeah, I'm talking about teaching English. We have English right up to the eighth semester. We tried
oh,
this. We also tried the reading bit, which is called signed reading. So when they are reading, they're going to sign what they are reading, just like how they read in English, they would be signing. So that was also a huge challenge getting the students to accept it and, follow that. So unfortunately, our efforts did not reach anywhere. We did have a short time where we tried to implement these in classrooms. So for lack of efforts, I should say, I don't know. I mean, we did try, but from the efforts from the student side, I think it was not
so
accepted.
Ms. Sharayu, what would you respond to that? How would
I would say maybe you can try with the 80-20 theory of activity and 80% activity and experiential, whereas 20% theory, because giving them worksheets and all, yes, helps. But when they are themselves involved in the entire process, it gives them a booster. So if you say, okay, you write it this way, this is the English that you have to follow. Obviously, there will be some reluctance. Signing in English, yes, but how you give it to the students, like let's play an activity, like let's use our stand up, sit down. Like in prepositions also, I actually make the teenagers sit under the benches. Okay, you sit there, let's have a lecture sitting down, so this is under the bench. When they're themselves involved, the acceptance becomes easier for
Yeah,
signing in English also. And we have a full-fledged curriculum for this English development program, when we start from literally introducing English, the difference between ISL and English, till business vocabulary.
okay. Thank you, Sharayu. I think
Yeah,
I'll get in contact with you through Prema
sure,
ma'am.
sure, sure.
Okay.
wonderful. Has Dr. Ulrike joined?
Hello, nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Sharayu.
Thank you, ma'am.
Since you're joining now, shall we start with your presentation and then save the questions for later?
Yes, that's fine. I will ask Amal to share the slides if you can.
Sure, ma'am.
Right. Before I start, let me say that I'm connecting from a very rural place in Western Odisha. We have power cuts and internet cuts also. So I might turn off my video, or if I disappear, I will try to rejoin. Right. Now, today is for us a day of celebration, International Day of Sign Languages, part of the International Week of Deaf People. I'm based here at the Happy Hand School for the Deaf, and we had a small program this morning. I'm very happy to be online with all of you now also. And next slide, please. Actually, I will start with a small story. This is the slogan by World Federation of the Deaf: no human rights without sign language rights. There's a slogan each year. But let me start with a short story. In 2002, I was in Lebanon, in Beirut, and I was living in the German Orient Institute. They had a common area. And one day the director of that institute came, and we met there, and we started chatting about my work with sign languages. And after he had only come for a couple of minutes, but he stayed like almost 1 hour. And then after that, he said, oh, I had only come to check whether the TV is working again. But instead, I found a whole new world. So this is exactly what, the sign language world and deaf world is like, a whole new world. And it's full of fascinating things, beautiful sign language productions. And I want to share a few of these aspects, not only from India, but also from other countries, to give a bit of a celebratory spirit to your webinar also. And we have the next slide. Now, you probably know all this gesture is not sign language, but just to show how the grammatical enrichment happens in sign languages. So everybody knows this gesture for money. It's a word-like gesture. It has a conventional fixed form. It always looks like this. Most gestures don't have word-like forms. But this money, superficially, it looks the same as the sign money. But then if you have the sign for money, you can add so much grammar to it. So from this money, I can sign somebody's paying me, like this, or I am paying someone. So subject and object are shown by the signs movement. People are paying each other. I'm paying repeatedly somebody. So all this is becomes grammatical form. Then I also have a sign for rich, like this, rich. Just waiting for the interpreter, rich. So I can, again, change this with some grammar to make it like very rich. Then the movement is bigger and with some facial expression, very rich. All this you don't have in gesture, right? I can also make the sign like this, then it becomes inflation. And I can have one of the signs for bank is money and stamp, like this. So this has a certain structure, which is called a compound sign. So I have to sign money, and the hand is ready for the second sign, and then it the signs are, two words are combined closely, which is called a compound sign. So just from one example, you can see how much rich grammar is there. And most of the grammar we find in Indian Sign Language is not there in English or in Hindi or any other Indian languages. That is why in the beginning, when we didn't have sign language research, people thought that, oh, Indian Sign Language has no grammar. because people were looking for, where is the tense ending, where is the pronoun, where is this and that, and they don't find it in sign language. And all the things we have in sign language are not there in the spoken language. So we must really look at the sign language in the first place. Next slide. I'm not going to explain all this, but just to see that there are different types of manual communication. We have something called international sign. It's a contact form that people use when going to international conferences. We have also something called home sign, which is improvised signs when deaf people don't have a deaf community, but they improvise between gesture and sign, some ad hoc form in their locally in their family or in their small community. And we have full-fledged deaf community sign languages. You can see all the columns have plus, all the rows have plus signs in the deaf community sign language. So sign languages need equal respect, and the International Day of Sign Languages is a very good way to promote this, not only in academic circles, but in the wider community, as I'm sure all of you are engaged in. Next slide. Now I tell you a few more stories. This is a fascinating story. I have been working with Indian Sign Language for 25 years, but I also worked in Turkey for about 10 years. And in Turkey, we discovered a very interesting and thrilling story, because the oldest well-documented case of a sign language happened in Turkey. And it started in the 15th century. One researcher called Mr. Miles had done the main documentation. And the story in Turkey is that the old kings in what was called the Ottoman Empire in the 15th century, they would seek out deaf servants to come to their court in what is now Istanbul. And they originally got deaf servants because of confidentiality, so the deaf can't hear what I'm discussing with other kings. And they were also used to execute in secret some other people. But this kept growing, and in that time, from between 15th century, for 200, 300 years, there was a big culture of sign language and deafness in the Ottoman court in Turkey. That time the Ottomans had a big empire, and they searched for deaf young men everywhere, brought them to the court. And the sign language was the status language, because the sultans, as the kings, had a culture that because of my respect that everybody owes me, nobody can talk in spoken language. I want everybody to be silent as a mark of respect. So if ever you wanted to meet the king, you first had to learn sign language, because you are not allowed to talk in spoken language. So this is a very old case where sign language is a high status language. You need it to access communication with the king. Next slide. One more story. This story is from current life, a village in Bali. The village is called Deaf Village, which is Desa Kolok in the local spoken language. And their sign language is called Deaf Talk, which is Kata Kolok in the local language. You can see here some people signing. This village is one of a couple of dozen cases around the world where the village has a very high percentage of people who are born deaf because of genetic modification in the gene pool locally. So in the case of Bali, this village has had deaf people born there for 8 or 9 generations. And in this and other similar situations, the whole entire community adapts to the situation by evolving a sign language, which is locally and used by both deaf and hearing people. So almost everybody in this village can sign, and about half of the people can sign really well. Every clan and family has some deaf people. And the incidence of deafness is much, much higher in this case and other cases. There are also cases all over the world. So in this particular case in Bali, it's interesting because the deaf members of the community have special skills and special duties. They are responsible for the burials. So when people have to be buried, it's the deaf men who conduct the burial in the cemetery. They also act as the local police, because the deaf men are known to be very fierce and not scared of anything. And so they look after local security, burials in the cemetery. They also look after the water pipe, and they have a whole, they practice a brand of Hinduism, and they have a local god who is again deaf, and there's a deaf ghost and all kinds of local folklore and tales about embedding deafness in that community. If you grow up there as a child, you don't have language barriers because everybody around you signs. You naturally learn the sign language. You don't have language deprivation. And the biggest issue we face in India and so many other countries is language deprivation of deaf children who don't get access to sign language. Next slide, please. Okay. So talking about India and Indian Sign Language. Indian Sign Language is really special to me. I use several sign languages, but I particularly am fond of Indian Sign Language. And India, of course, has regional languages everywhere. And then it has English, which is used in the whole country, but English is a foreign import. It's not indigenous to India. And the only pan-Indian language that is indigenous is Indian Sign Language. We use it everywhere. And it is it has developed locally in India. And I don't have enough time to talk to you about 25 years of Indian Sign Language national programs and new national policies and initiatives. We started in India in 2001 with the first program of sign language teacher training and sign language interpreter training with my colleague Sibaji Panda in Mumbai. And the situation now is really unrecognizable from what it was then. It has utterly changed. Highest level of policy now recognize Indian Sign Language, and so much is happening in the media. Deaf people's lives have been really transformed by being able to use communication devices, WhatsApp, sending videos, all the things you have been talking about, and so much translation and interpreting work is now happening with ISL. So this is all extremely positive, and we also need to be aware that India has been on this trajectory, has been much faster than other countries. Any other country, whether US, Europe, those we usually compare ourselves to, have been much slower. So we have been much faster in India with this development. But there is a but in this whole story, which is Indian Sign Language in deaf education, particularly children's education. This is our next task and our next frontier. And again, the same story has happened in other countries, that the sign language, once it's recognized, it happens in the media and in interpreting and documentation. And the last place sign language arrives is always deaf education. And that is really a heartbreaking thing, because young deaf children and children of any age need sign language for their natural first language acquisition. If they come from hearing families, they might join a deaf school without any language. Then you need intensive language rehabilitation, a language-rich environment with 24-hour sign language, and also alongside learning the written language. And this is not happening yet at the moment. So therefore, I'm here based at Happy Hand School for the Deaf. I invite you all to have a look at its website and its various report, what it is doing. hopefully another time we will talk in much more detail about the various approaches that we use. It's not only a matter of adding sign language. This is one point I want to make. In any educational program at any level, whether kindergarten or university level, it's not a simple thing to say we add a sign language video and everything is solved. We have been creating a very complex ecosystem of learning where so many other factors are there. We are simplifying English textbooks using AI. We are employing deaf teachers and deaf-centric pedagogy. We are using cross-subject learning as is recommended in the NEP. And in fact, we feel very validated by the NEP because so many approaches that the NEP is advocating, we have always worked in this way from the beginning. So I would like to close by sharing with you a little video made by the children of the Happy End School in the celebratory sense of celebrating sign language and its amazing creativity. So please see the video and enjoy. Thank you. Thank you. We can close the PowerPoint. Prima, I'll pass back to you.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you for joining in spite of an unexpected visit at your school. You have so much experience, and we would love to learn from you. When we say ISL across the curriculum, the textbook translations, the bilingual, bicultural pedagogy. If you could share your insights on how we should be doing things, this is useful for schools, teachers. It's also useful for us when we try to build our avatars, sign language avatars, and we have complicated text. We don't know what to do with it.
Yes, okay. So I think it has to start also from the goals of education. There are of two types. One is the goal that any education should have, and the other one is goals that deaf children in particular should have. So in the earlier years, the goals for young deaf children is to acquire a natural first language. And it has to be a complete language acquisition and one that is accessible for every child, which is why sign language is the approach we use. And we also then in later years, we need deaf people to become literate because not everything will be conducted only through ISL and through videos. And in order to become a competent citizen later, whether employment or political, social life, becoming literate is one of our main goals here. So we aim for what we call multiliteracies. So you should be, and these are the multiliteracies means you need multiple skills. You need to organize in WhatsApp some communication, post a picture, then write a sentence with it, combine with a video, add a link. So there are multiple media you can use. And you need to be proficient in working with videos, reading texts, turning texts into visual notes, etc. These are the kinds of skills we need. And closely related to this is meta-linguistic skills. This is a very important key, which so far has been not been sufficiently recognized in Western countries either. A meta-linguistic skill means the ability to work explicitly with different languages and have explicit knowledge about why is ISL different from English, why is English difficult, where is it difficult, what are my skills in English, and how can I use them? When do I need to use an interpreter? When do I send my text to AI to be corrected? How do I make reading easier? How do I manage my communication environment outside in the world? Because deaf people need to be competent to manage their own education environment. Nobody will give you the ready environment. You have to manage saying, here I will write, here I will use gesture, here I will show something from WhatsApp. So these skills have to be there. So, and of course, we want subject knowledge and everything that is there in the NEP. So thinking skills, reasoning skills, finding information. We send our children to the library where we have a big reference section. We say we are now teaching local democracy. So find what is there in our reference books. We are teaching on electricity and magnetism. Find the reference books and report back what you find. We are teaching English, so here we have passive construction. You find the right form in the dictionary. How do you use a dictionary? So all these skills that later create success in life. Just to say that it is a complex ecosystem. So ISL videos alone, no 4-year-old is going to learn by watching ISL videos. You need face-to-face human communication. And no high school student is going to pass their exams by watching ISL videos. Because when you go to the exam, you have to write. There's no option for ISL. So we need to, also having deaf teachers only on its own is also not enough. Deaf teachers need to be very competent in sign language and need to acquire the subject knowledge if they don't have it yet. So we have intensive teacher training here to extend our deaf teachers' skills. So all these things will work together, and we are constantly monitoring in a learner-centric kind of way. So however children are able to learn, we try to implement that. And we check off the formal official curriculum at the very end. We don't start with the curriculum. We don't say we have to deliver this and this and this textbook. We do what learning is suitable. We cover lots of different things across with thematic learning, one theme across different subjects, and at the end we check off the curriculum. I could speak for 2 hours about this, but this just gives you a short flavor of how we operate.
Wonderful. I just want to ask the audience or the other panelists, if you have questions, please put them in chat, and Amal will read them out. Or if the other panelists have any questions. What about capacity building while we are waiting? What should be done? Capacity building
Yes, this
for
is
deaf education.
Yes, this is extremely important. Again, it's next frontier that really we need a huge effort. It is sadly the case that people who go through the current formal B.Ed and D.Ed programs, specifically that are marked as HI for hearing impairment, it is not necessary to know Indian Sign Language fluently, either upon starting these programs or upon graduating from these programs. If you're not fluent in Indian Sign Language, you should not work in a school for deaf children. Just like if you're not competent in Braille and other types of navigation aid that you need for blind people, you should not work in education of blind children. This is just a basic common sense. So since we don't have that, we really need alternative, fully signed bilingual programs at these levels. Bachelor of Education. And we would like to start with a master's program so that again we have trainers who could then implement bachelor's program. We hope to also cooperate with Amrita University and Prema's department on developing something like this as master's level. And also I should add at each step we should check with deaf sign language users, whether what we are doing really works. Here we have an experimental field living lab kind of thing where everything we do we can directly test out in a live environment. I'm very happy that Amrita Creates work is going ahead by first of all employing deaf people, but also checking with deaf learners on the ground whether what, for example, the OLAB's translations, whether they are working and how everything should be made accessible through sign language. So that is the right way to do. But it's a huge thing because there are so many hundreds of deaf schools that are not equipped with the things I've been talking about. So I sometimes try not to think about all of India because then my confidence goes down very low because I don't feel how from a small place we would be able to do something bigger. But we have to keep at it and try.
I don't see any questions in the chat, so I will ask one more. Are there any questions, Amal? So I would be also interested, the struggles we are facing as we try to build our avatar is not just with building the avatar, but translating text from English to the ISL gloss. And some of the problems are we don't have a good reference dictionary. We don't have books that explain compound words, the more complicated and shorter ways to do things. And maybe we have not yet perfected the annotation, at least not at scale. And so, what would your perspectives be on building something like this so that it benefits everybody?
Yes, I must say I'm not at all a specialist in this avatar kind of work. I'm most fascinated that something like this, I mean, it gives actual output. I'd not seen this before.
The linguistics part and
Yes, yes,
that part is most important
yes.
to build the avatar. What the avatar does is based on the ISL gloss.
Yes, my
And
intuition is that a parallel, what we call a parallel corpus, would be very helpful that AI systems can probably learn from. A parallel corpus is an organized collection of texts in two languages. So where Indian Sign Language is has a collection of texts, and the same in English, if our target language is English, and Indian Sign Language being represented with a proper linguistically based gloss, which we use in sign language linguistics. We've been using for several decades. So this is a well-established glossing conventions to show the kinds of things I showed initially, like how do you do this? I pay you, you pay me, this grammar in space. Or
Yes.
I was saying rich and very rich, the kind of, facial expressions that I added. So we have established ways of glossing this. Only doing word by word is going to miss all that grammar. So, and then to start a parallel corpus, not with general with any topic, but start with well-defined small domains. It could be, for example, something like a simple Aadhaar card service, where the kinds of topics that are there are predictable and easier for artificial intelligence than to learn, or railway bookings, or then more advanced like the OLABs scientific things. So when we have a parallel corpus of sufficient size, then AI can probably, use this for learning to produce better translations. And my understanding is that automated translation in other, like spoken language to another spoken language, also depends on such parallel corpora. Only for languages like English, they are available in the millions of words, whereas for Indian Sign Language, we don't have any. So it would, take some big effort, but starting with a well circumscribed domain probably would be my first step.
Okay. Um, I would actually like to ask all the panelists if in one sentence we can say what would be the next steps. What should we be focusing on? And if some of it can also help us as we build our assistive technology with ISL, that would also be of great value in taking our collaborations and actual work forward. So all the panelists are, not all are here, I think, but whoever is here, if we could just say in one sentence.
Yeah, Dr. Prema, I would reiterate what I had earlier spoken about the universal designs for learning because I was listening to Ulrich, and hi Ulrich, if you remember me from AYJ. So yes, in the diploma programs and B.Ed programs, the content has been included from RCI sector also, but I know it's not enough. And what happens is, Dr. Prema, in a 2-year program for the teachers, they have to learn the content of pedagogy, the subjects, the language, and everything about hearing impairment, everything about other subjects like the psychology, the child development, that it really leaves a lesser room. But nonetheless, there have been suggestions from RCI also, and it's mandatory that there have to be summer workshops for the even the trainees as well as teachers for learning Indian Sign Language. Coming back to that one line that you said, we need options in today's time. So whether it is students with hearing impairment, or it is students who are having associated issues, or students who have multiple problems, or it could be first generation learners, they also face problems. So if we give options to students in terms of the universal design of learning, I think we can cater to everybody rather than we emphasizing a particular thing on the children. So it could be print learners also. Children are, deaf students as well as hearing students. Some are just print learners. So if we give them options for their own things, our goal is that they achieve their life's vision, mission, and their goals. And the 3 important things of education, empowerment, and employment. So do everything which is needed. And I think Universal Designs for Learning has the answer. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Varsha. Who would go next? Ms. Sharai.
Yeah, so hello. So
Yes.
I would just like to say that looking at all the insights that we have, looking at all the programs that everyone is doing, everyone is taking a step for the betterment of the community. But again, coming back to the program is communication is the key. Be it any employment, be it any work, communication is the key. For which I feel there should be more extensive vocabulary first thing. Maybe we can have better use of English in ISL, so that once they are well versed with ISL, they have, but once they are well versed with other language, which is universal, it can help them develop better. Because for example, if they're learning skills, any skills they're learning, but if they're able to understand the structure, maybe a simplified one, I am not talking about the fancy English, but even if they know the basic English, and if we simplify it for them using AI, they can have better comprehension. They can learn things. Like, we go on YouTube's, we refer to different pedagogies, guidebooks. When we have to learn any program, we refer to a lot of notes, but it becomes difficult for them because of this barrier of communication or English. If they learn this, it will be easy for them to cope up with any skill, any program that they want to. So if you can have some steps for the betterment in communication and to
Yes.
be able to learn English, written English.
If I can just add one sentence, when I was talking about using simplified English here in the school, we use that in order to then progress to the English that is used in the standard textbooks and that will be used at university level. So between sign language and simplified English and professional English, we need to aim at the whole range and not stop at simplified English. It is a stepping stone.
Uh, yeah, I would also like to add, like, when we talk about the advanced English or the basic English, since we have a research program, we had talked to the employers of Clarison Partners, Edelweiss. So what were their expectations, and employers was they should do basic English. They are not expecting them, the deaf learners, to know a lot of English, but just basic English, which maybe I can map it for a better understanding with grade 7th or 8th email writing, which students have, the hearing students have in schools.
But
So
were
when
you
they
saying that you are taking your students through IGNU bachelor's programs? And
yes, yes.
so for that, they need higher education level English.
No, not required, because we have talked with the IGNU people also, the registrar. So what they said is the concept should be cleared. If they're writing in simple English, that's fine. Even when we are teaching them, we have our own content which is simplified. So I can, if can, is it okay if I present something?
I don't know how much time we have.
No, no, it is just one slide which I would like to show. Will that be okay?
Yes, as long as you take only 1 minute, yeah.
Yeah, it is just
It's past the
1
time,
minute which
so
will
we'll
take.
close quickly.
Um,
Dr.
as a
Raj, maybe
yeah,
you can be ready next.
PPT. So
Thank
I
you.
was just, I think I'm not able to do it here, but there was just PPT wherein I was just showing the answers which the students have written for IGNU examinations, the university examinations, and they've passed it. They have got like 85%, 70%. So it is not a very fancy English answer, but just that the concept is clear. Also, we talked like the expectation is not 4 5 pages also. They said even if the students write 2.5 pager answer, and if they are sticking to the concept, is fine for us. Same with the employees. They said we don't need a lot of elaboration description. They can talk on point but with basic English. So these are the needs from the employees that they have given.
Very good.
Thank you.
Dr. Raji?
Yeah, hi, Ulrike. This is Raji from Nish.
Hello.
Hi. So I just wanted to know what's the highest standard of class that you have at Happy Hands? Are you do you have a high school, or is it just up to middle school? I'm not.
Well, it's a bit of a complicated question because the oldest age group we have been with us for 8 years now. So
Okay.
you can call this class 8. However, 2 years, of course, all schools were closed for COVID. So
Right.
we are taking that into consideration also. And actually, we call our classes not by standard. We call our classes A, B, C, D, E up to J. And
Okay.
the oldest age group is between 14 and 16 years old now. So we expect in the next within the next 2 years for them to start taking 10th standard exams.
Okay. So after 10th, I guess you would even go in for the higher secondary programs, right? I mean, we'll be
Yes,
retaining them in the school. Yeah.
yes, we
So
plan.
hopefully after higher secondary, I hope to see some of your students at NIST for the graduate programs. It'll be great teaching them. I mean, since you've already, laid the foundation for English language, I'm sure it'll be a pleasure teaching them if at all they choose to come to NIST.
Yes,
So I know a lot of things are happening across India. Many centers are working on various aspects. You have universities like Amrita University working on technology and development of assistive technology, and a lot of research and development is taking place. Happy Hands is also progressing very well. A lot of work is being done by Dr. Shivaji as well as Dr. Ulrike. So my message would be is that we only get to hear of these things when we join programs such as this, a conference or a meeting. So we don't have a single center or a point where such information is easily accessible. So I think though ISLRTC is there, but I'm afraid to say that such information is not available. What each institute is doing at its own level and its own capacity is not available. That kind of information is not available to all. So that I think going forward, that should be something where knowledge is shared, information is shared, and the work that institutes are doing, excellent work that institutes are doing, is also available out in the to the public. So that would be my concern and my hope that that will happen.
Very good. Maybe it's something we can think about for the new UNESCO chair. So have collaborator pages and share experiences, best practices from across India.
Right.
Very good. Um, who is left in the panel? I think Shankari left. Okay. All right. Um, so I just want to thank every one of you for joining. I know we gave very short notice and everybody came well prepared. We got a lot of very different perspectives, right from early education to school education, higher education, technologies, learning ISL, learning English, inclusion, special schools, and of course we also heard from Anu, our own one of our project staff who has really blossomed. We've seen how well she can do multiple things, both in computing and in arts. And So I just wanted to thank all of you. What I'm hoping is that there is collaboration, as we work with assistive technology, and each of you is an expert in different areas. Together, we would like to see if we can have a well thought of, well tested with deaf experts who are in the team from the start, and linguistic experts and AI experts all working together in both doing research, building projects, incentivizing uh, young people to learn ISL or to support with technology, and together make a difference. Together make a difference also in policy, advocacy, and I just want to thank everybody once again for joining us today. Amal, yeah.
Ma'am, if we can just have a minute to turn everyone's camera for a group
Okay,
photo
all
before
right.
to show our
So
appreciation.
we request everyone to turn on the cameras for a group photo and just let it be on.
The camera is enabled for everyone now.
Shall I take? I
You
think
can
some
remove
people.
you can remove the spotlights. Yeah.
Shall I take? Dr. Raji, are we signing anything?
We are just taking a photograph, Priya, please. Everybody can turn on their cameras. Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Amal Raj Lakshmi.
Can we leave, Dr. Prema?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Prema.
Thank you all.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.